Geek Citadel.
Get down there! Alright, everybody pays attention, no one gets hurt.
Michael was the best in the business when it came to taking other people's things. He came up with an idea that would get him paid, but also get him and his family out of harm's way. This sounded like a great idea at first, but he found out that retirement is a boring and meaningless existence for a man of his talents.
And where did these opportunities get you, Michael?
They got me right fucking here. The end of the road. With a big house and a useless kid, and I'm stuck talking to you because no one else gives a shit. Oh, I'm living a dream, baby. And that dream is fucked. It is fucking fucked.
It only adds to his frustration that his family hates everything that he is.
I like that problem. You're such a jerk.
Franklin, on the other hand, is a member of the Grove Street family's gang. On top of that, he does odd jobs for small amounts of pay and lives with his infuriating auntie.
You know you always been like this, boy. I say left, you say right. I say become a doctor. You say become a patient.
His friend Lamar wants him to partake in street thug activities forever, but Franklin is tired of being a by-the-penny thief and wants to make some real cash.
That's that Apache blood in me, homie. You ain't lucky I ain't do a flying tomahawk and scalp they motherfucking ass.
We can't repo the assets of a dead man, big sitting chief asshole.
In a freak meetup with Michael involving a car and a pistol, Franklin becomes a student in the life of heist under the tutelage of Michael. Michael and Franklin come out of the heist unscathed and heavily paid, but even with all of his experience, Michael makes a classic mistake that leaves a mark on his crime. Enter Trevor, the most psychopathic maniac in the history of the world, and Michael's former partner in crime. Seeing his companion alive and well after 10 years of believing he was 6 feet under is just the motivation that he needs to head off to Los Santos and pay a visit to his old pal.
You were my best friend. Well, guess who's coming to shit on your doorstep, you fuck!
3 protagonists with very different lives weave their individual stories together to create a cohesive plot involving mayhem, murder, and hard currency. Michael has to deal with his awful family members like his cheating wife, lazy son, and promiscuous daughter. Franklin deals with his life in the hood by helping out crackheads and saving his friend Lamar from getting his head blown off. Trevor, on the other hand, is the most psychotic maniac ever depicted in the medium. GTA 5 tones down the seriousness of Nico and goes nuts with the satire and an outright ridiculous storyline. Every single person that the boys meet is a caricature of an established stereotype. Lamar, for instance, is what one would call the epitome of the hood.
So you giving me a lecture about not being a good enough gangbanger?
Gangs is positive. That's all we got, my nigga. That's our heritage.
While someone like Devin Weston is the quintessential entrepreneur that always fracks over the little man.
You know what the irony is? I'm a major shareholder in that same studio, so what we just did is practically legal. Ha! Practically.
The most I can say about the story is that it's a riotous amount of fun, and I don't think there have been many games that caused me to burst into uproarious amounts of laughter.
Who are you?
Namaste. I'm Fabian.
Good lord.
Together, these men will go on a rampage across San Andreas, taking on the biggest heist for money, glory, and sometimes because they would be killed if they don't.
Sweet mother shit.
This marks the first time in a Grand Theft Auto title in which players will leap between 3 distinctly different character types at any time during gameplay. Simply pressing down on the D-pad and flicking the stick in the direction of a selected character will send the camera careening across town to interact with Michael, Trevor, or Franklin. Each of our anti-heroes has their own missions associated with their different lifestyles. They all have diverse special abilities to tie in with the way they live and react to situations. Michael has always been great at getting in and out of tough circumstances, so he can react faster during shootouts than normal people. Franklin has been boosting rides and winning races all of his life, and it's made him exceptionally experienced at handling vehicles. Trevor, on the other hand, has lived his life in fits of uncontrollable rage, and he can take extreme amounts of damage while dishing his own justice out. Grand Theft Auto games have garnered lots of disapproval by gamers for their shooting and driving mechanics, but Rockstar has taken all the criticism and completely refined these key systems. Shooting people and things in GTA has never been smoother. sliding into cover, locking on a target and putting a bullet in a man's head, only to flick a thumb to the right to target the next victim of lead poisoning and fire off more rounds is a breeze. It's a breath of fresh air to take cover and have a fast responsive shootout in a GTA title. The driving mechanics have been overhauled as well, especially when taking to the streets as Franklin. Some cars still move like boats if they are buckets, but not to the extent of a jet ski attempting to drive on land. Taking a sports car, barreling down the street, weaving through cars, and hitting corners on a dime is a pleasure. I normally don't like race segments in open world games, but the amount of precision allowed for the overhauled driving system was better incentive to get me involved. Each character has their own vehicles that they'll drive around town from time to time. Instead of having to go back and constantly find a car, players can choose to customize their rides with improved engines, looks, and more. It's not limited to the protagonist's normal vehicles either, as every single car and bike in the game can take part in the upgrade process. These improvements make the mini missions in Grand Theft Auto a blast to play through, and it has given Rockstar a chance to change up the pace completely. The variety of gameplay during missions fluctuates constantly. At one point you could be chasing a train with a dirt bike, mopping a floor, or scuba diving to sneak into a top secret facility. It's obvious that Rockstar's satisfaction with creating worthwhile combat and driving mechanics was enough for them to create shifting and amusing new situations for the player.
The plan is simple, elegant. Listen to Lester, pay attention to the information he gives you, and we'll all make a buck.
The main example of this is the emphasis on the heist system. Players will be able to choose between two plans on most heists, and even bring in workers to take a percentage of the cut depending on their skills. The two choices always range from going in loud or taking a subtle approach and going in silent. The heist can go south quickly depending on the people brought along on the job. Let's say your hacker is terrible at cracking an alarm system. The time to get in and out with the goods will go down significantly. The heists are executed fantastically on a static level, and by that I mean the scripted moments of car crashes and exploding buildings are on par with great films. It's the customization of heists that come up as a problem after all the fun is over. I was told that I could case a place for a heist, set up a crew, and plan it out with evolving stats and characters. That's not how it panned out at all, and it turns out that every heist in the game is specifically tied into the main storyline. It's disheartening to know that it's not an option in single player, but here's hoping that online isn't as restricted in its approach. Side missions are always the key to longevity in any open world title, and GTA smothers the player in a wealth of content on that end. Michael and the gang can stumble onto strangers and freaks scattered throughout San Andreas. Each of these people have their own encounters with Franklin, Trevor, and Michael that have nothing to do with the main storyline. It's just a bit of extra fun to stumble onto the insane inhabitants of Los Santos. The gang will also stumble onto random morality missions that pop up from time to time. A citizen will be mugged, assaulted, or have their car stolen, and it's up to our anti-hero to recover the goods. The morality test depends on returning the stolen item or continuing down the street a little bit richer. Some of the wilder events will have our protagonist saving people from devastating situations, like rescuing a woman from her wedding. GTA has the most content I have ever seen in a free roaming title. You can play darts, hit the shooting range, try your luck at golf, smoke various drugs, serve someone in tennis,
Still got the old magic.
skydive, take part in a triathlon, take your dog for a walk, go shopping for various clothes, take a dip, go hunting, take on a bounty, and so much more. If all else fails and none of that interests you, go take in a movie or spend hours endlessly searching through the hysterical fake websites. The biggest piece of the content puzzle is the same thing that draws us into every GTA game. San Andreas stands as a technological marvel above all previous free roaming titles. The scope is one of the reasons behind this, but it's more the depiction of the surroundings that widen the gap. As someone who lives in Los Angeles, I drive around in this fictional world and see familiar buildings that I never believed I would see in the game. The Santa Monica Pier is one of our main attractions here in Los Angeles, and they completely nailed the Mann's Chinese Theater with the superheroes and all. It's the buildings like a swap meet or a flower shop that wouldn't garner a single hint of tourist attraction that astonishes me. They even captured the flow of traffic when taking the freeway. Not to the stop and go extent, but the amount of cars in each lane. It can also be the painstaking realization of how high you can fly and how low you can submerge in a fully realized ocean full of sea creatures. It's so detailed and beautiful that it's hard to believe this was realized on our current run of systems. The voice acting and motion capture are phenomenal as well. I thought The Last of Us nailed it, but watching some of the facial capture and acting in GTA definitely put the two neck and neck. The audio also fares extremely well during missions, and when there are key events where a song dedicated to the situation is playing. The musical selection is excellent, but the rock stations could have used some better song choices. Now, despite my love of Grand Theft Auto 5, I do have some gripes with it, no matter how minor. First, as beautiful as the game is, you will experience a lot of pop-in textures. On the Xbox 360 version, you'll see some frame rate stutter and a lot of shadow pop-in as well. It's a limitation of the hardware, I know, but it's worth noting that it happens. Secondly, this is the most violent game I have ever played in my life. Some of the content actually made my mouth gape open in shock and awe. It really borders on the edge of being an adult-only game, and Rockstar pushed the envelope to the edge this time. I know people want to buy this for their kids or play it in front of them, but I think you should think twice. Hell, even 3 times before allowing that to happen. GTA 5 borders on excessive violence, drips with expletives, and flaunts its use of nudity any chance it gets. Third, stealth makes it into the game as a stat, but almost no mission requires the player to do any sort of stealth. It's crazy how there are no actual sneaking missions for entering a building like a ninja and coming out without a single person ever knowing you were there. Fourth, why can I buy all of these buildings and I cannot go into any of them? It's cool to be a leisurely business owner and let my staff do everything, but sometimes I want to show up, get the staff in line, and get the money flowing. What happened to that spark of party life that came with Luis in the Ballad of Gay Tony? Did we leave it all in Liberty City? Fifth and final, along with the excessive violence, is the rampant misogynistic approach to the treatment of women. Most women in this title are depicted as anything but loving, understanding, and respectful of themselves.
No, I don't want to sleep with you, and no, I don't care that I'm 39 and single. It doesn't worry me a bit.
It's satirical to a fault, as it never truly finds a strong female character and gives her a chance to shine. It can get extreme with the outright flaunting of the female body in strip clubs, shows, and other parts of the game. As a male who understands the fantasy that is GTA, that's all fine and dandy because, you know, boobs and stuff. But I wanted my girlfriend to understand why I like GTA games so much. I could only imagine the discomfort she would have to shoulder just to sit through the story while observing the one-sided treatment of women. Anyway, no matter how you look at it, this is the one to beat for Game of the Year in my opinion. This vivid painting filled with death and destruction is a wonderful satire on life, liberty, and the American way. Grand Theft Auto 5 single player receives 5 stars out of 5. Rockstar has nailed it again with an improved combat system, a knock it out the park storyline, and a city that surpasses all that came before it. If you have money in your account, pocket, or whatever, you can go out right now and spend some on GTA 5.
Hey, come on, bro, don't do that.
You're pushing your luck, pal. What was that?
What?
What was that?
Nothing.
Ah!